up? What's up, everybody? What's going on, Raps? How you doing today, bro?
Cracking, brother.
Good. That was loud ass music, man. But how you doing today, bro?
Yo, man, I'm feeling lovely. I saw the Barbie movie late last night.
You're a Barbie girl in a Barbie world, man. How was it? How the hell was it? Honest.
That shit was funny, bro.
I figured it would be dope, man. I like from all the reviews I hear. Now, of course, we know some reviewers can be bought, but we have integrity here at the Unnamed Comic Book Podcast. If Rap says it's dope, it's dope.
I was on board for it. I thought, I expected it to be a good movie, just like, based on what I was seeing from the advertising campaign and stuff like that. I expected they had like, the right minds behind it, if you will. So, yeah, I mean, I don't know, that maybe a little overhanded on the femininity at some point, but I don't.
It is Barbie, so like
people were saying it was like there was like a, feminist propaganda in it or whatever.
Okay.
I didn't really see that. If there was like, because that was the thing this morning, I was like kind of asking Shivanya, I was like, what do you think the point was? What do you think the moral or the lesson learned at the end was? Because that's where I was hazy. It's like, I don't know, like somebody learns it's okay to just for shit not to be perfect, basically.
Okay. Well, I mean,
that's like the ultimate, like what it gets down to, right? Because she's Barbie and then she steps into the real world because she starts having an existential crisis and thinking about death. Wow. Which is like, it's pretty fucking funny when you got like a 6-year-old girl sitting in front of you in the theater with her father, and like not even 5 minutes into the movie, Barbie is like, do you guys ever think about death? And then everything is just like,
little girl's like, Daddy, no.
Dude, I was laughing my ass off, and Will Ferrell especially is really funny. Will Ferrell plays the CEO of Mattel.
I love Will Ferrell and pretty much 99%, some of that Sherlock Holmes movie he did, but 99% of the things he does, I'm a huge fan. But it's not Barbie episode, although it could be. But it's the Flash episode, and you know who we are. It's your boy, Mr. Marz Entertainment, and of course, my boy, Mr. Johnny Raps, and we are here at the Unnamed Comic Book Podcast, or actually it's the Unknown Comic Book Podcast. It used to be the Unnamed Comic Book Podcast, and now we're the Unknown Comic Book Podcast. And because I stumbled, beer alert, yes, I'm drinking beer early in the morning. I tried not to, but I've already made my first stumble.
You know what? It's a DC episode.
It is a DC episode.
So we can be a little bit more adult, right?
Well, a little bit more, yeah. It's not.
Isn't that the DC brand now? Like, it's like, because it's HBO.
Right.
So like,
or is it, with Gunn taking over, will it be dark? I don't know where we're going with this new DCU, but we're going to be talking about all things DC. We're going to be talking about the Flash since it's now on digital. We're going to be talking about where we're thinking we're going. So we're going to have a blast, man. But before we do, we got to do a shameless plug. It's a Party streaming right now featuring Bizarre. And of course, my man, Johnny Raps. Please, 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 it's summertime. You're going to be having parties. If you're going to have a party, you should be listening to It's a Party. It's a fantastic song. I'm batting 1,000 on the music side. My man Raps is doing this thing. So please, we got to do the shameless plug. And also, follow at Down in the Den on YouTube for more of this great content. We're plugging our stuff. We have a whole MCU, and I'm talking about a Marz cinematic universe going over there on that page. We got a little bit of everything. We got music. We got food. We got travel and leisure. We got relationship advice. We got adult entertainment. No, I'm just kidding. I'm not slanging no meat on the page, but we got a little bit of everything. So please subscribe. Please subscribe. So, man, this episode is all about DC. We are in a cusp of a brand new era in the cinematic side. There's still a couple movies going on the side, but before we go into the movies, this is a comic book show, so we're all about what you should read because reading is fundamental. So you got some rap reads for us? You got some rap reads for us, brother?
I love that shit. Reading is fundamental. Well, here's the thing. I really do. Something that, really, I didn't really think about until I was, watching the Flash movie is, like, I don't have a whole lot of Flash comics in my collection, and
Many of us don't.
very massive, almost 6,000 books. So, I have a fucking epic collection, and yeah, I really don't have a lot of Flash. I have like a handful of books from, Mark Waid's run back in the 90s when it was Wally West Flash.
That's who I grew up with, Dub Flash.
Yeah, legendary run there. And I have a lot of, the bigger stories surrounding the Flash, and but he's one of those characters which is like the same for me with Iron Man. Like, he's a character that I adore as a team player.
Right.
You know what I mean? I don't always think of him as the main protagonist, but I love, JLA and, those books. I'm a big team book guy when it comes to that,
Yeah,
so
for sure.
just like, same with Avengers. I don't have a whole crap load of Iron Man comics or, Captain America comics. I got certain runs, but he's a team thing for me. So the thing that worked really well about the movie for me, and I think this is why they did it this way, is probably because there's a lot more people out there like me. They're like, well, it's also a Batman movie and a Superman movie.
Right.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So with my reads, I just kind of focused on, the things that this movie reminded me of.
Mm.
And, it really did. Like, people, if people haven't read Flashpoint by now, like, you really you don't know the source material for this movie.
You're probably not watching this show either. Like, so we're not even going to talk to you. At bare minimum, you've seen the animated movie. Please tell me if you're tuned in that you've at least seen the animated movie, which, by the way, was a fantastic adaptation, in my opinion. If you guys, I'm a huge fan of DC animation. I think it blows Marvel animation out the water. So yeah, please check out Flashpoint Paradox if you haven't peeped that. I think it's on, I was going to say HBO Max, but they've rebranded again. So I think it's just the Max now. So,
if it's anywhere, it's on Max. Yeah. And it's that is one thing. If you're not a reader, then that is a direct adaptation from the book, from like the page to the screen. That's something that they do really well.
Yeah.
But that's the thing. I used to watch every one of their animated movies religiously, but then I stopped because I was like, oh, this is just exactly what I just read.
Yeah, it's a page-for-page adaptation. It's like comic book for dummies. Like, if you haven't read, watch this. If you like the moving visual, the DC animation is generally page-for-page adaptations in most parts, except for, I think, the Killing Joke. They took some liberties with that, but for the most part,
they extended the story because
they extended the story.
Is such a short read.
Right.
Killing Joke was a one shot. It wasn't even like a a graphic novel or anything when it came out. It was just a one shot format. So
exactly,
it's a very quick read, just kind of like origin of the Joker story. But yeah, Flashpoint, you got to read it because there's so many elements from that in this movie, but it also introduces a cool new version of Batman, which is Thomas Wayne. And so in the comic, what happens is when Barry ends up when Barry does his running through time thing, he ends up, the same shit happens, but he ends up in a world where instead of Bruce Wayne dying in the alleyway, and we've talked about this before,
Thomas Wayne dying in the alleyway.
Yeah, instead of Bruce Wayne or instead of Thomas Wayne dying, Bruce Wayne dies. Yes, right. I said it backwards. Sorry. So yeah, Bruce Wayne dies, and Martha Wayne. Actually, we find out in the next one on my list, which is Flashpoint Beyond. So Jeff Johns, the writer of Flashpoint, recently did a sequel, and that was after Thomas Wayne found himself in the actual DC universe, yes. Or like, you know, in the main Batman timeline. So there was actually a part of Tom King's run, which was a more recent run on Batman, where Thomas Wayne was a villain. He was actually working with Bane.
Yes.
And in like some weird, like this is the thing where like I feel like I struggled with Tom King's run on Batman because he was doing some things with the characters that I just did not find true to the characters. And it was like shocking and it was like a twist and you didn't see it coming. But then afterwards, I'm like, really, would Thomas Wayne like, you know,
try to break his son to the point?
Yeah, that was what he was doing. He was like trying to break his son so that Bruce could be the like as intense of a Batman as he is, basically.
Right.
As ruthless of a Batman. So he teamed up with Bane. They fucking like, you know, they went into the desert. He threw a Batman in a ditch. So it was like partially reprising the plot from Dark Knight Rises, because he had to like, you know, heal himself up and get out of the ditch and then get back to Gotham. And in the meantime, Bane snaps Alfred's neck while Alfred's sitting in a chair right in front of Robin. They got Robin tied up, and but is it Bane or is it Thomas? One of them.
Bane snapped his neck. It was
Bane snapped. Yeah. So yeah,
Thomas was behind the scenes being the puppet master of the whole thing.
He like makes Robin watch and stuff, and it's just really fucked up stuff. But then, so after all of that, I feel like Jeff Johns wanted to bring Thomas Wayne, you know, back around the basics. Basically, he was like, that's not what I created him for, I don't think. Right. So they did the sequel Flashpoint Beyond very recently, and it was really fun, and it was also just some intense storytelling. He's, you know, Thomas Wayne finds himself back in that version of Gotham again, and it's like he's a little bit time displaced in that he arrives slightly before the events of the Flashpoint story.
Right.
And so he is like trying to recreate the events of Flashpoint, which is funny because was in the events of Flashpoint. Barry was trying to recreate the events that led him to being the Flash.
Right.
So now Thomas Wayne is trying to recreate that whole scenario, and what happens, this is the only spoiler. I'll give you 2 spoilers. Spoiler number 1, the Joker in this universe is Martha Wayne. She just goes nuts, and she becomes the Joker. Spoiler number 2 is when when Thomas tries to recreate the event that turns the Flash into the Flash. First of all, he has to kidnap Barry and like basically like kidnaps him and, you know, forces him into it, because Barry's like, "What are you doing to me? I'm gonna die." And then he does. He gets electrocuted with all the things and just dies. And then Thomas Wayne is like, "Didn't work. Fuck. What am I gonna do? Did I break time space continuum?" And he kind of did. And you know, but you know, Batman gets involved, and it all gets, you know, I'll let you read it, but it's crazy. It's some crazy storytelling. And then also 3rd on my list, and this was just this wasn't an introduction to the Flash for me, but this was a big introduction to hero comics for me in general.
Mm.
This is when I started to realize, fully how all of these books tied together and how it was all kind of one thing and how the writers could really just do whatever the fuck they wanted. Because this was, this story was printed around the same time that they were doing all kinds of crazy stuff with the DC characters, like killing Superman and Bane, paralyzing Batman. And we had, Nightfall. They were doing all that crazy stuff. And around the same time, they published 0 Hour Crisis in Time, which was, it's not thought of as the sequel to Crisis on Multiple Earths. It really is, if you think about it, it really is the second big Crisis event, which they used to like reboot things and retcon things and things of that nature. If you know what I'm saying.
Yeah.
But it's not really thought of as the sequel. It wasn't as popular, I don't think.
No.
People didn't like the changes that they made, I don't think. So it was like, it wasn't, people were just like, yeah, we're not calling that the sequel to Crisis on Multiple Earths. So, Infinite Crisis is what came next.
Right.
And they were like, that's the, but it's fair because 0 Hour Crisis in Time is not a multiverse story. It is a time story. It's the time is disrupting. So, different versions of characters are showing up from, like past versions of themselves, characters that have been dead for a long time. Barbara Gordon is all of a sudden walking again, and they're like, "What's this? She's Batgirl. What? Why? I thought you were in a wheelchair a minute ago.
You were the Oracle. What's going on?"
Yeah, so it just created a mess in time, and to me, like the most memorable thing that happened in that story was the death of Barry Allen, where he everything is, to give people some context, everything is being sucked up into these kind of like black holes. They're called entropy. And the entropy is just kind of showing up in multiple different timelines in multiple different places. And the heroes don't know what to do. And it's basically nothingness that is eating everything up. And evil, turns out an evil version of Hal Jordan, aka Parallax, is behind it. Green Lantern become Parallax is behind the whole entropy situation that we find out. But anyways, at one point, Barry, trying to stop the entropy, runs full speed, faster than he's ever ran before, into the entropy, thinking that he can cause like some kind of, I don't know, some kind of boom, big bang effect that's going to like, close it up or something and reverse it. But he just disintegrates himself, basically. He like runs himself into nothingness. And then they have his costume and they bring it back to the other Flashes. And, like Jay Garrick is like, no,
Barry, no.
In the meantime, they've all been sapped of their youth serum. So the Justice Society is all like old and withering and dying. And a couple of them just immediately died when they got sapped of their serum because they were just that old.
Right.
I think Our Man just immediately was like, and had a heart attack and died. That's just crazy to reminisce on, man. I haven't read that in a while. I might have to go back. But that's a good, like I said, not introduction to the Flash, but it's a
pivotal
like
story.
Barry Allen, you should see the death of Barry Allen, and he really didn't come back for a very long time after that.
For a long time, he was in that Uncle Ben zone and Bucky zone where everybody comes back in comic books, but those three. Since then, they've brought back all three, obviously. But
when did Barry Allen come back? Was it New 52, or was it before that?
I think it was the New 52 because Wally West disappeared, and then Barry Allen returns, and I think that was also to get some in sync with what was going on in the cinematic. We always see it. We were talking offline about Kamala Khan over at Marvel, how they killed her off and then brought her back as a mutant immediately to get in line with the MCU. So it's tell as old as time, as they would say in Beauty and the Beast. It's a tell as old as time. They wanted to be in line, which leads to, in many cases, some dumbass retcons. Sometimes all right, but in most cases, some dumbass retcons. But I
like you were saying, most of the time they if it doesn't work, they just end up going back and reversing it.
Right, go right back to
flipping reverse. Arbitrarily made Pietro and Wanda not mutants, but creations of the fucking the high evolutionary, actually.
Right. Yeah.
But recently there was a story in the last run of X Factor where they're doing the fucking why am I having a brain fart right now? They're rebirthing people.
Yes.
Resurrecting people on Krakoa.
Resurrection pods on Krakoa.
Resurrecting people on Krakoa, and or not people, mutants. And Wanda died. I think she actually committed suicide. I'm gonna have to fact check myself on that. But Wanda dies. They go through a whole investigation to bring her back, and they did.
Right.
So, I mean, she must have been a mutant. Everybody read this. I'm gonna go back and because sometimes I just smoke a little too much before I read. So I remember that I liked something, but I don't remember all the details. But read the last run of X Factor. It's good. It's good. The House of X Factor. It was a short-lived series. It was like 12, 13 issues or something. But it was really cool storytelling. It's a cool team. It's a different X Factor than what we've had before because X Factor there's been so many different iterations of X Factor in the comics, right? The original X Factor was the actual original X-Men that they I think faked their deaths and then were
I think they got sent on a mission and everybody thought they had died, like on that original mission that Charles, if I'm not mistaken.
And they became like an investigative firm of sorts. Yeah. But but people didn't. They were trying to hide the fact that they themselves were mutants. And then something happened that exposed the fact that X Factor themselves were mutants. Then we found our way into the second iteration, which was like Havoc's team that was working for the government, with Havoc and Polaris. And then the next iteration would be Multiple Man's team when Jamie Madrox started his investigative business. And then and I think it was pretty much that until this most recent version where these investigators basically what the deal with the resurrection system on Krakoa is that somebody cannot be put onto the resurrection queue until they find a body.
Right.
Because then they don't know if somebody's dead, and they've already had situations where the original wasn't dead, and then they resurrected that person, and now they got a clone situations on.
Right.
This happened with X-23, aka all new Wolverine, Laura. Right. She went on a mission with Sync into this place called the Vault, and in the Vault, they basically like super evolutionize humans, super evolve humans. So they're not mutants, but they're humans that have been in
the next level of evolution
over, the time that passes inside the vault is like thousands and thousands of years to like days on Earth. And so they've hyper evolved these people, and they're called the children of the vault, and they're almost more powerful than mutants,
Right.
so because they've evolved so much. So Sync and Loris were in there, they got trapped in there, and they were in there for a long time. It aged a lot and everything. Sync got out, but Laura was thought to be dead.
Right.
So they resurrected a new Wolverine at like a young age and everything. But then later in the series, they did go back in there, and then they found the original. And so now there's two versions of that Wolverine, an older version and a younger version.
Right.
And the older version is not calling herself Wolverine because she's like, I don't even remember that life. Call me Talon.
Right.
But Talon has beef with little clone Wolverine. So they're like, we don't want this situation and stuff. So X Factor, what they're supposed to do is go find the bodies so that they can enter the person into the resurrection queue, basically.
Perfect.
So that's like an X Factor Investigations, I think it's called, or something. I don't know. The book is just X Factor.
So that's a bonus rap recommendation. So we got rap for you, and that's a rap recommendation. So I need y'all to check that one out at your local comic book store. It is a dope read. Of course, we're both X-Men fanatics. We grew up in that time where you don't spell Marvel without an X, if it makes sense.
Yeah, man. Well, the next episode, this is like a preview to the next episode because we're going to talk about X-Men in the next episode. But the reason I brought that up was all because we were talking about the retcons. And so, like, you know, they made Wanda back into a mutant so that they could resurrect her. What's up? One of the other dumbest retcons in the books I've seen based on the movie is when Peter temporarily got the power of shooting webs out of his hands.
Yeah, I hated that. It diminished his genius. You know what I mean? His webs in the comic book befuddles even some of the smartest people in the Marvel community. And, you know, they have some super geniuses, and they're all amazed by his, you know, genius to create this substance. So to have it organic really dumbed down the character to me. So that was the only thing I didn't really like about the Sam Raimi universe, is that the fact that they opted to make organic webs, but they kind of fixed it in No Way Home with the variant thing and their little differences. So like, oh, you guys don't make organic webs, and it ended up being like a cool payoff to a joke. But I digress. But yeah, because like, where does it come from?
Yeah, they got to. Well, that's what worked about that movie, is they got to acknowledge all the crappy stuff, and you know they're fixing stuff. Yeah, they're going around fixing stuff. I mean, look at you know, I don't know how much we can spoil it for people, but look at how this movie ends, The Flash.
Yeah. So let's get in to The Flash. Let's get into it. Let's start with the dope, bro. What did you think was super dope about this movie? You'll go first, and then I'll give my thoughts.
I mean, I really loved the movie, man.
I did too.
I don't have I don't have much criticism. Like right now, I can't even, like, I was gonna watch it again. I was gonna try to watch it again. I bought it on digital. I didn't get to
bought it on digital too, and watched it again last night.
I mean, I really liked it. I didn't even think that I was gonna like the AI stuff, but the actual, you know, people are saying it's like bad CGI, but I feel like the aesthetic was intentional.
It was, because
I don't feel like it was supposed to look real.
Well, the director said it represents the influx time of the universe. So everything's kind of morphed. We're getting his perspective as he's morphing through time. So it was definitely intentional, according to the director. And I have no reason to believe that it wasn't. I thought it was super. Number one, it was way better than I expected. So I'm gonna say that right there for a movie that's been so maligned, it's been so delayed. It was supposed to come out in 2018, pre-pandemic. Like if you really look at the release date, it's gone through at least 4 iterations. And to me, for those who weren't alive during Back to the Future and how zany and how crazy that was for our younger viewers, to me, it gave me that Back to the Future energy. Yeah, I was obsessed with Back to the Future growing up, and even some of the references, like the Eric Stoltz being in Back to the Future.
Yeah, that was good. That was good.
That was so dope. So for those who don't know, Eric Stoltz was originally cast as Marty McFly, and they shot like 99% of the movie with him. And then the studio was like, "Oh, this shit sucks," and they went and hired Michael J. Fox, who was starting to blow up, and reshot a lot of the scenes. So it was super dope. Just that's how he realized, oh shit, I've changed more than just resurrecting my mom. I've changed everything about this universe to the minute details that Kevin Bacon is now in Tom Cruise is now playing Tom Cruise role in Top Gun, to the fact that it was another I can't remember, it was something else,
Another
but
pop culture reference.
yeah, it was another really cool pop culture reference. So I thought it was super
Oh, I
super
think it was Tom Selleck was Indiana Jones.
no, it was something else. It was another young actor that was popular in the 80s. Footloose. Somebody was in Footloose.
Oh yeah. Somebody else was Patrick Swayze's role in Footloose.
Michael J. Fox was in Footloose.
That's it. When he was like, Marty, no, Michael J. Fox was Marty McFly, and then they
right, yeah.
Like, oh, that's him. He was in Footloose.
He was like, no, he's in Footloose. He was like, you mean Kevin Bacon? He was like, you mean the guy in Top Gun? And you're like, oh shit, everything's wrong in this world. Although I wouldn't mind seeing a Kevin Bacon Top Gun. Shout out to Tremors, by the way, underrated movie.
Oh yeah, and I said Patrick Swayze. I was thinking about Dirty Dancing. No, yeah,
yes,
Footloose. Yes, getting my dancey movies messed up.
She's like the wind. Yeah, totally different.
The dopest thing for me about the movie was the acting.
Yeah, and shout out to Ezra Miller. I forgot that that's the same person. Like him playing the dual Flash roles. We've seen it a ton, including Multiplicity. Shout out to Michael Keaton, but I forgot that was the same person. I'm literally like, oh man, these two guys can act, and I'm like, oh shit, it's the same guy the whole time. Probably the best I've seen that done in a movie, because their differences where it allowed his character to be a lot less annoying, because everything we've seen him by default putting someone that's more annoying, it made him seem more mature and more in line with the Barry Allen that, we're probably used to reading, versus this kind of slapsticky, I can't do anything. Like in the comic book, like Barry Allen is like very proficient at what he does. He's like no slouch. So I think that was super dope. What did you think about the opening with the Justice League opening?
Oh, hold on. What time out? I'm getting a recording error over here. Do you see that, or is that just for me?
Let me take a look.
I've seen something on the right here. It says under recording, your device is out of storage. Your recordings have stopped. Please free up 5 gigs. Is that?
Yeah, I see that. That's just for your personal recording, because I have it set up where it can record both, but it won't impact the show or anything. That's
okay.
You have your own version. So
sorry. So yeah, the Justice League beginning was dope.
Yeah. Ben Affleck mentioned that.
I didn't even know Ben Affleck was in it, to be honest.
Oh yeah, he mentioned that that was he finally cracked Batman on his last appearance, and it was kind of like sad that he finally cracked it. I thought it was dope, especially after Batman versus Superman, where he was so dark. I'm like, God damn, Batman, you're like branding people and killing people. I'm like, that was a dark ass Batman. I really like what they did. It was kind of crazy. Like they almost made him metahuman with his like chase scene where he was like skidding on the freeway, and I'm like, Jesus,
nuts.
I was like, Jesus Christ, is he supposed to be old Batman? Like every bone in his body should be broken. He's like flying. He did kill a couple people because he threw people out of moving car going like 100 miles an hour.
Yeah.
I'm like, you don't survive that. Like one guy essentially killed himself. He looked at him and was like, nah, I'm good. And just rolled on the interstate. But I thought that was dope. I think the characterization was super dope. I think the story was super dope. It was super entertaining. Would I've liked probably a darker version, maybe. But I did love what I got. Like you said, we've read the comic book, we've seen the animated version. If they would have done that, and I know a lot of people wanted Jeffrey Dean Morgan back as Thomas Wayne, and they talked about that. They said that was a version that they were making, but I ended up really digging the version that we got, and it was one of my favorite superhero movies of 2023 so far, top 3 so far.
Oh yeah.
Oh, sorry, that was me. I got a phone call. Sorry about that.
Is it Mom's?
No, it was the lady. Shout out to Nikki New. If you're seeing this, I'm live, baby. I'm live. I can't I can't pick it up.
Of the Are You Mad podcast?
Of the Are You Mad podcast. Yes, the Queen of Marz Media. She's out in Miami celebrating her birthday. So please have fun. Be safe out there. If you tune in, I'm here. I'm here. I ain't doing anything dirty. I'm right here.
Yeah. But definitely top 3 favorite. I mean, are there more than 3 super? Yeah, there was more than 3 super. I would say my favorites is, I mean, it's
Guardians.
It's Flash, Guardians, and Spider-Verse.
Yeah, absolutely. Now,
I haven't watched Shazam yet.
I did.
It's not going to be up there.
It's on the Max right now for free. If you want my password, I'll send it to you. Max, don't get us, but it wasn't good. It was far worse than the first Shazam I actually dug, but this one was a franchise killer. It was that bad.
Oh, you didn't like it? Okay.
Nah. It was Zachary Levi. You might want to see if they can recast you as Fandral, because that was. But I digress. So what do you think was whack or could have been better about The Flash? Because we both just mentioned how much we loved it. So I don't know. Is there anything that you thought could have been better?
I don't know about better, but there was just like the inconsistencies in that, like there was like they showed all the versions of Batman, but like no Christian Bale version. Did they show him?
They did not. We got Adam West.
Even like related to that universe, because even if they didn't show him, they could have showed like a Joker or a Bane or something. You know what I mean?
Yeah, a digital Heath Ledger cameo would have been super dope if you're going to bring back Christopher Reeves and all of that.
Yeah, they could have showed. We heard a Joker laughing like when they showed like when they showed Adam West Batman running.
Yeah, that was Caesar.
Yeah,
Caesar Romero's Joker.
Caesar, and then they could have showed Jack Nicholson. They could have done that whole thing too. So I think there were some missed opportunities a little bit.
I agree. Did you catch that little Easter egg for Jack Nicholson's Joker when Young Barry, I'm just gonna call him Young Barry, is fiddling around with the Batmobile, and he's like, "Who's laughing teeth for this?" And it just shows that apparently Batman is OCD in every universe. He keeps these mementos, and I'm like, "Is that from 1989?" Now, I wouldn't say whack, but I agree with the inconsistencies. If you're going to bring back Christopher Reeves and George Reeves and Nicolas Cage, shout out to Nicolas Cage fighting a giant spider. For those who don't know that deep cut, that's from the Tim Burton Superman Lives movie that was in full production but never ended up getting made. That was dope.
There is a documentary of it. It is called The Death of Superman Lives, What Really Happened. It is a great fucking documentary. That's where Kevin Smith, who was one of the screenwriters that got fired, he tells the story of this crazy producer. It's the same guy that produced some of Barry Sonnenfeld's movies, and he happened to produce Wild Wild West. So this crazy producer told Kevin Smith when he wrote the script, he doesn't care what happens except for there's 3 rules. And he was like, well, what are the 3 rules? And the rules were, number 1, he doesn't have a cape. Okay. And he was like, okay, Superman, the guy that always has cape, no cape. Okay. Second of all, he doesn't fly. And so Kevin Smith was like, okay, Superman, okay, doesn't fly. Okay, we got that. And then third, he fights a giant spider in the 3rd act. So, of course, the movie got shit canned. They never made it. They got all the way up to getting ready to make it and never made it.
He did get paid. Nicolas Cage did get paid. They paid him like $20 billion to do nothing.
Oh, nice. I didn't know. See, that's good.
He has a pay or play contract, so he got $20 billion and got the costume. But
the little the little Tim Burton-esque like models that they made of Brainiac and shit, those look cool as fuck, bro.
Yeah.
But anyways, Kevin Smith's story is pretty funny because and I'm telling you this because you can't find this movie anywhere anymore, bro. This documentary was apparently an unlicensed thing. The guy that made the documentary died of cancer, and you can't find it anywhere anymore.
So, internet, if you guys can help us, if you have a copy, please send it to your boys. I've seen the documentary. It was super interesting to just see how weird Hollywood can be. I guess the producer did get his giant spider because if you saw Wild Wild West, you remember it ended with a giant ass spider. So
that's what Kevin Smith says. He says, I'm sitting there watching Wild Wild West. I'm like, son of a bitch, that motherfucker got his giant spider.
So I think that was a dope touch. But I agree that, missed opportunity. The fact that they didn't mention or really even show the TV Flash, like you
must feel boned, bro.
Yeah, you got
Flash longer than anybody ever has, and I didn't think it was. I only watched I think the first season.
I watched the first 2.
There was so much of it. Was just so much, man, to consume. Those CW shows go on long.
They're long, and those budgets, a character like the Flash requires an extremely high budget, and to really get his power. Although his running, when you talk about whack, the running that they had him do, I'm like, has they ever run before? And I'm using the proper pronouns. Like, that was weird. Although the payoff when he lost his powers,
and they made a joke of it.
They made a joke of how stupid it was. It actually paid off. But I definitely feel a missed opportunity. I would have loved to see some Christian Bale, even Jordan. What would have been cool? Like going to a universe and you see what's his name, JGL, Gordon Levitt, who kind of took over the role at the end. Show him
fun.
Yeah, show him as Batman. Like he takes off his mask as Gordon Levitt to see that universe continues.
Even if they didn't want to work with Christian Bale for whatever reason,
right? You have an excuse that he essentially passed the mantle on. So I definitely feel it was some missed opportunities. I think a lot of that also was studio mandated because for those that don't know, they've shot a couple of different versions of the ending where you had Ben Affleck stuck in the Nightmare universe. And there was supposed to be a post-credit scene that shows Ben Affleck is still out there. And he's like, Barry, come rescue us, kind of to mimic what happened in Justice League where Barry went to the future. So that was an opportunity. But from my understanding, James Gunn and Peter Safran didn't want to make promises of a universe that's never to come. But I'm looking at it like, hey, it's the last hurrah. Go ahead and leave that out there because if your universe doesn't work, you can always go back. So I think that was whack.
Zack Snyder's Justice League proves it, man. You can always go back.
You can always go back.
They made a good jab at Zack Snyder's Justice League on the Barbie movie too.
I heard about that. I haven't seen it yet, but I heard about that. Now, what do you think was the busted? Because I know a lot of people complained about the special effects. I thought the special effects were just fine, except for the weird babies at the beginning. The baby shower scene.
Oh yeah, that was. Oh yeah, I forgot about that whole sequence.
That was a
That was so
weird.
strange when he saved all those babies.
It was super strange. For number one, and not to I haven't heard. I look at all the other YouTube shows and stuff like that. And like I said, this isn't one of those breakdown shows, but he definitely microwaved the baby. Like, like when the baby comes down, the microwave goes off, ding, and he's smoking. And I'm like, how the fuck did this get past the censors? And they read this. He put a baby in a microwave and turned it on.
The only thing I'm thinking is like, because they've done that sequence multiple times in the X-Men movies with Quicksilver, or Peter as they call him. So I feel like they were like, okay, we're using a very similar effect. It's going to be a similar sequence. What can we do to just make it more bonkers? And apparently somebody in the writing room was like, babies flying through the sky. Like, I don't know. I don't know if it becomes any more like pressure than that for a hero too. You know what I mean? Like, he's there's like 12 babies falling at once. What am I going to do?
And a dog and a nurse.
And the nurse, yes.
And he mentioned he can't touch them because the friction. So he literally had to like lift stuff out of the air and put them in containers, because if he touches them, they'll just like kind of explode or whatever.
I miss that part of it.
Yeah, that's why he had to
do it the way that he did it.
Yeah, because when he was training Young Barry, he was like, you can't just grab someone, because we're moving at hyperspeed, they'll essentially disintegrate. But he was like, you can grab a solid object and lay them on this or do this or do that.
I missed. I must have zoned out for a second, man. That's an important detail. So that's the difference between him and Quicksilver, right there.
Well, Quicksilver's not nearly as fast either. Like Quicksilver,
he doesn't have access to a speed force, for Christ.
No, he's like speed of sound, like 800 miles an hour or something, which is still pretty fast for a human. But we're like, Barry's like running faster than the speed of light. I'm like, Jesus Christ, man, that's a lot.
It's that speed force. Do you think we're going to see like? Here, okay. I don't know if it was busted for me. Like, is alternate Barry, was that supposed to be like at the end? Was he supposed to be some kind of reverse Flash or Professor Zoom or something, or is it just some
he's
a new iteration of something?
Yes, he's a new character. So the directors and the producers said Reverse Flash definitely killed his mom, and originally there was going to be more Reverse Flash, but around reshoots they kind of just made him Dark Flash, which is a new character, just a version of Young Barry that just got morphed and corrupted from trying to. The writing was, I feel, phenomenal in the movie.
Yeah, totally.
And they really set it up. When you see Young Barry, he kind of has the OCD with the math problems. And if you paid attention, his mom was like, and it even came back when he had to tell him, like, some problems don't have an answer. You just got to let it go. And when he was like, there's infinite ways to come up with 24. So he's just filling up the paper. And he did the same thing. He was like, there's got to be a way to save them without realizing this is a fixed point in time. There's nothing you can do. So if you notice, he was super old because he had been doing it for probably millions of years at that point.
Yeah. And I like that they, also did their own version of the canon event. That's what they call it in Spider-Verse.
Yes.
What did they call it?
In the they called it a cross point or something like that, or I can't remember the exact term, but when Michael Keaton was playing with the spaghetti, he was like an intersecting point. I think he said it was an intersecting point that just happens in all timelines, no matter what.
I really like that because I love that scene because Batman is a genius.
Right.
Batman is a tactical genius. a technical genius. He has a
engineering
plan
genius,
for everything.
everything.
So he knows shit. And that's something we never really got to see that world's Batman do in the movie. Like, he didn't really get smart until we didn't see that thinking part of him, I think, very much until it was Val Kilmer in Batman Forever, and he was trying to solve riddles.
Right.
Like, Michael Keaton didn't really get to be like like, hey, let me explain to you how this works, Batman, kind of thing. We got to see him, examining things in the cave, or but very little of that. You know what I mean? It was mainly like, we're with the villains. Now we're with Michael Keaton trying to track down the villains, and then maybe a little bit of like love scene. But he didn't get to do a whole lot of that cerebral Batman work. So it was really cool to see him give that explanation for me, because, we got to see him do some real Batman thinking.
No, you're absolutely right. And it's rare. There's been at least 6 Batmans in my lifetime, maybe more. And it's rare that they get an interpretation where they get all the elements, where you get the Playboy. Like, I always thought George Clooney, although a lot of people hate that movie, I thought he was the perfect Playboy Bruce Wayne. Like, perfection, especially at that time. Like, but you didn't really get to see the dark side or the menacing side, because he was essentially Playboy Bruce Wayne in the bat suit. And that's where my problem was. I think Christian Bale's Batman had the perfect brooding, might be a psychopath in a bat suit Batman. And he did pretty well when he did the Playboy Batman, but they didn't really get the genius element because they had Morgan Freeman doing essentially everything for him. Like, you need a Batmobile? I just happen to have one, Andy Dufresne. I would have liked to see Bruce actually develop a lot more of those components. And then when you look at Ben Affleck, he had the physical monster presence where you're like, oh yeah, this guy can beat a lot of people's asses. They had the genius element, but you didn't really get to see the Playboy version because he was kind of gruff and had already been burned out a little bit. So, I mean, they kind of did it a little bit better in this movie when they had the little lasso of truth scene where Deanna saves him, and he was like, I'll never be able to, I got too much ego to say thank you and things of that nature. And Barry grabs a rope. He's like, I know it says his, I just haven't experienced it. I think those are some cool elements, but it wasn't a lot busted. Like you said, I think the special effects were very intentional, and it worked for me. It gave me that otherworldly, like, okay, time is in flux. It's not just one consistent linear path. So I don't think it was a lot busted. I think it comes back to studio interference, taking elements out because they knew this universe wasn't continuing.
It does sadden me. We're talking about all the different versions of Batman, right? And I mentioned him once. I've always loved Val Kilmer's performance in Batman Forever, and to me that was the first time we even got to really see Bruce Wayne. Because in Batman and Batman Returns, when we see Michael Keaton playing Bruce Wayne, and this is no fault of his, it's by far it's the way it's written in the direction and stuff. It's like Bruce Wayne is his mask, so he's like, you know what I mean? Like like Bruce Wayne is almost a joke to him in that movie. You know what I mean? Like
right.
He's like riffing with people and stuff,
right?
And making I mean, and there's the scene where you want to get crazy, let's get crazy,
get nuts, let's get nuts.
And I'm like, you're like, okay, that's who you really are. That's that's Batman. He's Batman.
Right.
But like Val Kilmer, that was the first time we got to see how he was affected by the death of his parents. Like in the first 2 movies, we knew that happened. We knew that's why he's Batman. But the third is when you see him like actually dealing with it. He's having the therapy sessions with Nicole Kidman's character.
Dr. Chase Meridian. Shout out to Dr. Chase Meridian.
Chase Meridian.
What a name.
Yeah. She's a correct character in the books. But yeah, it saddens me. It just saddens me, because of Val Kilmer's health conditions that that's probably why they didn't get him in there. I kind of wish I kind of wish that I saw a little bad CGI Batman Forever or something.
I would have been, he's obviously, for those who don't know, he had, I believe, throat cancer or something like that. So he's pretty much lost the ability to speak, but he's still for those who saw Top Gun, he's still in the industry. His
Oh, he
son,
was in Top Gun?
yeah, he was in the new Top Gun for a very small cameo, but he was in there. And the Willow series that came on, for those who know about Willow, he was Madigan and Willow.
He was the best part of that movie.
Best part by far. His son, who sounds just like him, does his voice for him, like as his character. So
that's cool.
They could have even done I would have liked if they did a little bit of Doctor Strange multiverse where they hopped into these universes maybe for a bit. And he could have been like a broken Batman that's been like broken by Bane or something, anything to show that love. I wish they would have went further. And I think if they knew the universe was ending, because when the movie was originally created, the Snyderverse was going to continue. I think they would have went more balls to the wall. So I think that goes back to just the missed opportunity. If you're really going to end it, go balls to the wall. Touch every single bit. Shit. Show Kevin Conroy's animated version. I don't care. I think go all out would have been a really dope option.
Oh man, I love the. I love the. I know we're talking about the busted, but I just got to say, I love the reprisal of all of the Man of Steel shit.
Yeah.
Like that to me was so good. It's been so long since they made that movie to be able to
2013
take us right back there.
Yeah.
And I forgot like how intense that was. Like it's like because that movie was intense because you're like, God damn, they're destroying the world. Like
and I think we've touched on this before. Man of Steel is dope. A lot of people shit on Man of Steel. Man of Steel is
the best Superman movie ever.
Is dope. I agree. And I love Michael Shannon, and I've never seen him in anything bad. Like, or at least his role has never been bad. And I think it was super dope because you're absolutely right. I also love the other angle we saw in Batman versus Superman, that Batman was there in Metropolis, and now we find out that Barry was there in Metropolis during that time. So I think how fitting
by it.
Yeah, everybody was affected. All these heroes in the background were trying to help. It would have been cool if we saw Wonder Woman because obviously she was around that time, but I guess she was just like, oh, whatever, let them burn.
I love the Wonder Woman riff.
She's the queen of the cameo. Like she just shows up for 7 seconds in like 6 summer movies this year. She just showed up for 6 seconds.
Yeah, she's so hot.
So overall, and I'm going to rephrase that to not what went wrong with the Flash, what went wrong with the DC, because this show is not just about the Flash. This episode is about DC. What went wrong with the DCEU? Like it's dead and gone. We know we have 2 movies left, Blue Beetle, which James Gunn has said will actually be a part of his DCU, and we have Aquaman coming out. So those are the last official 2 movies in the Snyderverse, if you will.
And then Aquaman is just done?
And then Aquaman, well, from my understanding, they're bringing him back. That's why, if you remember...
Yeah, he's hanging out with Barry at the end.
He's hanging back with Barry. So they're going to bring some characters. Obviously, everybody from Peacemaker, those are his folks. They're going to be bringing in. They're going to be keeping...
Oh, did he do Peacemaker?
He did. James Gunn did.
I need to go watch that shit.
Yeah, it's pretty good. So people from Peacemaker coming back. Aquaman should be coming back. Although if it bombs like the Flash bombed, they may use that as an opportunity to reboot and then just say, he was in that universe. But the plan was to bring the things that worked over to the new DCU and then new Superman, new Batman, things of that nature.
Do you think it would be a new Wonder Woman?
It depends. You know, the first Wonder Woman made a ton of money. The second one was abysmal, one of the worst superhero movies I've ever seen. We know Patty Jenkins is gone, but Gal Gadot has made mention that we haven't seen the end of her character. So I think they will bring her back. I think the biggest thing is new Superman, who's already been cast. Did you see who they cast as the new Superman?
No.
Actor named David Krosnewit, and I think I'm butchering his name, but he looks just like Henry Cavill. Like he literally, like I'll show you offline. He looks exactly like Henry Cavill, which is weird, but he's a little bit younger. So we know we're gonna have a new Superman, new Batman. Don't think it's gonna be George Clooney, although they did say it should be an older Batman because obviously he has Damian. If Damian's 13, 14, 15 years old, you can't have a 27-year-old Batman because that would be creepy and against the law. So we're probably going to get a mid-40s Batman. What do you think went wrong with the DCEU? And I have my own ideas, but I'm interested to think what you think went wrong and what do you think went right?
What do I think went wrong?
Yeah, with the whole like we're talking Man of Steel.
Every time the filmmakers or the producers were listening to the fucking internet dicks. I don't call them fans, I call them internet dicks. So everybody that felt like the DCEU should feel like the MCU for whatever fucking reason, whatever led to them not putting out the right version of Justice League to begin with and Marvelizing shit. It's supposed to be different, people. There's reasons why there's two of them. There's reasons why they both work. There's reasons why both of these comic book universes have existed for decades and decades, and no other one really does. We don't have anything like it anywhere else they've tried. There are other comic book universes, like Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles have their own comic book universe, but it's not, I mean, it's Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles. Nobody gives a fuck about anything. There's not going to be another hero that matters.
Right.
Savage Dragon may come and go. You know what I mean? Like, I mean,
we grew up,
and Marvel would never have existed if DC didn't exist in the first place. So they have to be different so that they can borrow ideas from each other. Thanos is a fucking
Darkseid
analog of Darkseid.
Yeah.
They just
Deadpool is an analog of Slade. They even have Wade Wilson is Slade, right?
Wilson, yeah. Slade Wilson and Wade Wilson. It's that, like, you can't have one without the other.
Right.
So to me, the problem is the fans. To me, the problem is the fans deciding that one has to be better than the other all the time. Oh, the movie, all I've heard for years is, oh, the Marvel movies are so much better. Oh, the Marvel movies are so much better. And as I was watching them becoming more, not to say that I don't love everything that they do really to the core, but I mean, you got to admit that Disney made them formulaic.
Oh, absolutely.
To a degree. So I get more, like recently, I get more excitement from seeing a fucking DC movie because I don't know what's going to happen.
Yeah.
But it's like, I don't even like, you know, I don't even remember what happened in Love and Thunder, bro. I need to like go back and watch it. Like, I don't.
You don't need to go back and watch it. Like, it was one of those movies where I was really hyped when I first saw it, and then after the high went off and I looked at it again, I was like, this was not as good as I thought it was. And by the third watch, I was like, oh, this kind of sucked a little bit, especially for a character as, you know, with as much potential as Thor, and an actor as good as it. That movie, and guys, if we are jumping all over the place, keep in mind you're enjoying our conversation. I feel that Thor needs to go dark. he's had a lot of bad shit happen to him if you just look at the MCU, and they brushed it all off as a joke. All his best friends, his mom, his father, to his knowledge, his brother, and now the love of his life dies of cancer in front of him. Like, we need a dark Thor. We need like, and obviously Hemsworth said he's interested in coming back with a different take. Taika Waititi was the right director for that movie, but I don't think he was the right director for Love and Thunder. I think he would have been better off doing something else and just really getting. We don't have to go back to the Kenneth Branagh Shakespearean dyed blonde Thor, but he's gone through some shit, and I think if they bring him back, and I'm sure they will, we need to see how that weighs on him. I don't know if they need to do a time jump. I want to see Thor lose his arm. I want to see him lose his eye.
All that. King Thor.
King Thor is what we need, where the weight of him having to try to save the universe or multiverse for that matter really weighs on him. And I'm hoping we see that in Secret Wars or something to that effect. Yeah, but I agree with you. For me, what I think went wrong, it was the internet dicks, and I think it was the studio listening to the internet dicks.
Exactly.
Because they interfered. And I've heard, and I haven't said, I've heard that there's a David Ayer cut of Suicide Squad that is one of the best superhero movies that ever exists. That's out there. That has a lot more Joker and redeems Jared Leto's Joker.
Well, the original, there is a director's cut. Have you seen the director's cut?
Well, they're saying there's another version of Ayers that's like very similar to Justice League, like 3.5 hours long.
Oh,
much darker, and they chopped it up because they saw the Marvel success. I also think, and people don't talk about this enough, them shoehorning all these characters into Batman versus Superman was a huge mistake. I think they would have been better off doing Man of Steel, Wonder Woman, Batman, Flash, Cyborg, doing them just like Marvel did, taking their time.
Instead of rushing,
they rushed it. Like, even when I look back at in preparation for this, I looked at the Flash again and I looked at BBS, and I was like, they already had logos. Like, that was weird. Like when Wonder Woman stole Lex Luthor's hard drive, it was like,
there were logos on the hard drive.
I'm like, is Lex Luthor that OCD that he was like, I ain't gonna give him a name and I'm gonna design a logo because I'm not just gonna label it metahumans. I'm gonna give them. It was a bit much. So I think doing that and having, although Ben Affleck, is good and he's like 45 or 46 or however old he is, freaking Don Cheadle's like 56, 57, killing it right now in Secret Invasion. So they could have played him younger. They could have made him 38, 39. I'm 40, and I think Ben Affleck looks just as young as me. So they could have played him a little bit younger and not have him as cynical yet. So I think them trying to rush everything to match Marvel and them trying to copy Marvel instead of just letting DC be DC, which has always been darker, always been more fantastical, and the heroes have always been, way more powerful and way,
they're larger than life.
They're larger than life, and Marvel has always been like the flawed human real world. They even have like real cities. They're really in New York. They're really in San Francisco. They're, there's no Gotham. Yeah. So I think that was what went wrong. Now, what do you hope? And we're going to end the episode on this. James Gunn is the new creative head, co-CEO. Obviously, he's a fantastic writer, fantastic director, fantastic creator. He's one of us. He's a sweaty internet comic guy. He loves the story. He says it comes first. A lot of, once again, internet dicks are mad because they're mad at Henry Cavill won't continue to be Superman. Whatever. I just want a good movie. What is your highest hopes for the rebooted DCU?
Well, I mean, with Superman in particular, I really hope it's not another origin story.
Yeah, he said it wouldn't be. He said he's been Superman for a few years in this universe, and I don't know if you've heard of who's going to be in this new movie. So one thing I like about James Gunn, he doesn't let the internet think about stuff. He will come right out and be like, "No, that's not true," or "Yes." Like when the internet announced that they think David Kroshner, or whatever his name is, has been cast. He was like, "You are right. He is our new Superman. Here's our new Lois Lane. So we know there's going to be Hawk Girl in the new Superman Legacy movie. I forgot the young lady who's been cast. Metamorpho, who's one of my favorite characters, is going to be in it.
Wow.
Yeah. Mr. Terrific is going to be in it. The guy who played, who had the worst death in the Fox universe, he was. What's the character that always can adapt? That was in First Class. Black guy.
Oh yeah, Darwin.
Darwin. The guy who played Darwin is going to be Mr. Terrific. So he's going to be in the new Superman Legacy movie. Of course, Lois Lane, Superman, and I don't think they've announced the big bad who the villain is going to be. But obviously, this is the world. If we got Hawk Girl, Mr. Terrific, Gardner, Kyle Gardner is going to be in it as Green Lantern. Guy Gardner. I'm sorry, I got Kyle
or Kyle the Green Lantern.
No, Guy Gardner, Green Lantern. What's the one with the bad orange hair? That's Guy Gardner.
Guy Gardner.
Yeah, he's going to be in it. The Dick Green Lantern. Yeah. And he's going to be played by Nathan Fillion. So,
they got some deep cuts there.
That's some deep cuts. So this is going to be a Superman movie where everybody isn't shocked by seeing Superman. This is a world lived in. You know, we've got Batman, we've got all these characters. And a lot of people are like, "Oh, you're overcrowding it. You're getting you're going to take away from Superman." I think that's dope. I think having a Superman is, because we know Superman. I don't want to see the origin story anymore. I don't want to see if I see Pearls break one more time, if I see Krypton crash one more time, we get it. If you don't know,
comic books are great on ensemble stories, anyways.
All great comic books, every legendary run that you can think of is an ensemble. That's the beauty about comic books, because it's not a rights issue. And I've always thought that was a missed opportunity with DC. They have all their characters. To this day, Marvel still doesn't own Spider-Man, which is arguably their biggest character. And they've made a whole cinematic universe without their biggest character. DC and Warner Brothers don't have that problem. They own everything. We should always be having, I don't care if it's 13 seconds, you should just see Kilowog walking around in the background or something. That's the beauty about DC, and that all these characters exist together. So that's my biggest hope. And we know James Gunn is really good with an ensemble. You saw what he did with Guardians. Guardians of the Galaxy 3 is probably my favorite superhero movie this year. And in my opinion, that or Spider-Man. I don't know. It flips back and forth. But you know he knows how to handle an ensemble cast very well.
Beautiful movie, man.
Beautiful movie. That movie made me cry. Watch it again because I ordered that on digital as well. And I watched it again and I cried twice. I didn't cry twice at Black Panther. So you know if I'm crying over otters, digital otters, they're not even real otters.
That shit's so sad, bro.
I don't want to end on a sad note, but it's so fucking sad, bro.
Yeah, man. He got his whole friends killed. No wonder he ended up being an alcoholic and shit.
Absolutely. But what's your biggest hope for the new DCU?
I mean, I like the stuff that you're saying. You know what I mean? I want them to not be afraid to use what they have, and to not be afraid to use obscure characters. I mean, that's something that Marvel has been doing for a while, and it's successful.
Yeah.
You know, I mean, Guardians of the Galaxy is a team of obscure characters from the comics. In fact, they don't even do Guardians of the Galaxy comics all the time. There had not been a Guardians of the Galaxy title on the shelves for a couple years now, because there was no movie hype. And
Right.
now they put the movie out, so there's a new volume of Guardians of the Galaxy, and they're doing a Groot. Groot has his own title right now, and I'm sure they'll have another Star-Lord book coming soon or something. But it's like that's only happening because the movie hype, and then like a couple years from now they're going to cancel it because nobody's reading it, and it'll come back around some other time.
Absolutely.
So I want DC to go that route. I want them to keep doing the Suicide Squad type stuff. That's their version of that, right? I mean,
Right.
James Gunn even directed the last one. So what am I talking about? Yeah, like he's the king of using obscure characters.
Absolutely.
And he knows these characters well enough because, like you said, he's like us. So I would be down to see like in Superman, in the Superman mythos, I would love to see like Project Cadmus and like the 90s version Superboy, where it's like a clone Superman but younger. Like I want to see that kind of stuff. There's just so many there's again, Superman is like an ensemble story. There's so many fucking characters.
I mean, I can right off the bat name 10 characters that are in the mythos that we really never got to see. Even going back to Christopher Reeves, there was no Jimmy Olsen in those movies. They have cast Jimmy Olsen, and I forgot who that, but
obviously Bibbo, man.
Yeah. I mean, I want to see like Mr. I want to see that Mike. Yeah, I want to see everything. I want them,
or however they say it in whatever version.
Yeah, I can't pronounce it or spell it, and I don't think they can either because it changes per movie. But I mean, I want to see them go wild with these rich characters, and I think James Gunn is the right guy. So I have faith in him. I know a lot of the sweaties have been just like, oh, he got rid of Henry Cavill. I'm like, Henry Cavill was a great Superman, but he's also 40 years old, and we don't need Superman on AARP. We need a guy a little bit younger that can grow into this role for the next 10 and 15 years. I mean, Gods and Monsters coming soon. That's the name of his first phase. Instead of phases, he's kind of just named them by book. So this first book is called Gods and Monsters, and it starts with the relaunch of Superman Legacy, which will probably be delayed because of the strike going on right now in Hollywood. So, and by the way, we stand, we're allowed to report it. We're not in the union. Well, Raps might be because he's an actual actor, but we stand with the writers and the actors and everything they're doing here at the Unknown Comic Book Podcast. So hopefully these studios will stop giving them the screw and be fair, and you're making billions of dollars off of these movies. So let's be fair and get these actors and writers who are living. Everybody, when you think of Hollywood, they're thinking of Tom Cruise, who's making $80 million a movie. You have two guys on this show who have acting experience. And trust me, you're not going to get rich off of acting unless you're one of those. Even if you're a character actor, you're not going to get those $20 million paychecks that you think of Hollywood. So a lot of people are like, oh, they want more money. No, they're fighting for the other people that made the movie, the people in the writers in the writer's room, the people in the studios, everybody. So I'm really hoping that ends quickly. Oh, I've drank a lot of beer this morning. So I think that is it, bro, for this episode, man. We thank everyone for tuning in. We love your support. We appreciate that. Before we go, bro, please let the people know where they can find you on social media, anything you got going on. Let the people know.
The handle's at Johnny Raps. That's my social across the board. Look me up on Instagram. Check out my YouTube page. Because I'm always putting out cool new videos. So yeah, please go check out the new video. It's a Party, featuring Bizarre. I just uploaded that to YouTube. It's probably going to be on Vivo and everywhere else. I would say like within the next week or so. But just please support my YouTube page. I don't post a lot. I just post music videos, so it's like I don't get a lot of traffic. So you know, if you like to see like some very interesting visuals, I always put a lot into my videos. So go watch, go get a little crunk and watch It's a Party.
I can contest. I featured the video on my DITD radio channel. So the video is up there so you guys can tune in. It's a dope video. It's hilarious. My man Raps is a artist in his music videos. And I can say this objectively because I'm a truth teller. His music videos are probably some of the best music videos in music. And it sounds like a lot of hyperbole, but he really puts thought in. They're like little mini movies. When I grew up in the music video generation, and now you just get an artist performing in front of a green screen or flashing some money in the camera or flashing a gun in the camera, and that's a music video. You don't get that shit with Raps. You get true art. So please support it. Support DITD Radio and all of the D.E.N mates. And shout out to everybody who's watching this show and loves comic books. So we are going to end this episode there. Next episode, we're going to be talking all about the uncanny, the astonishing DMX. No, we're going to be talking about X-Men.
Wait, this is Wakanda. I feel like this should have been like
I think Wakanda's other arm.
What are they going to do for X-Men? X-Men!
Or they'll do the Degeneration X chop that used to get me detention all the time. I don't know if that's so scary. That's just like, but with Deadpool 3, well, it was shooting, but obviously they're on strike right now. We're going to be talking about the X-Men. They're coming, baby. They announced it in 2019, and we're going on 2024, and we haven't seen a goddamn X-Men component from DC, but they're coming. So we're going to be talking about our favorite X-Men comic books. I might bring out the Marvel cards. I might bring out the Marvel cards to the episode to show the ratings. I'm gonna take it back to 92 on y'all.
Yeah,
who knows? I got all the Series 1 cards, the whole collection. So I might dust them bad boys off. But we appreciate y'all for tuning in. For my man Johnny
Raps,
and for your boy Marz, it's the Unknown Comic Book Podcast. And guys, support your local comic book store. Make sure you spread that love, share those comic books, and keep yourself one for your collection. As always, we out. Deuce.
Hey.
Speaking of Deuce, I think I got to take one.